to our Bible in a Year reading plan. I am Shanique. We're so glad that you're here. And today we are looking at Exodus chapter 1 to 4. Thus far, we have covered Genesis, and now we're moving on to Exodus. If you haven't already, I just want to encourage you just to hit that subscribe button so you get notified of the latest podcast episode. And as a reminder, the weekly reflection questions, you can find those on the blog alongside the reading plan that we're currently using. We're currently reading from Genesis to Revelation, and you can find that reading plan and the reflection questions in the description below. You'll find a link to that on our blog. So as you guys already know, whenever we start a new book of the Bible, I like watching the Bible Project videos because it helps to give a nice little overview of the book that we're about to read. So if you haven't already, I want to encourage you just to watch that video. And you can also find a link to that resource in our Bible in a Year resources section of our website. But just for a quick little overview for you guys. So Exodus is believed to be written by Moses, right? And the overall theme of Exodus is essentially redemption. So how God delivered the Israelites and then make them his special people. And then after they get rescued from slavery, God provides them his laws in terms of how he wants them to live. And Exodus pretty much means exit. Okay, so today we are going to be reading Exodus chapter 1 to 4, and we'll be reading from the New American Standard Bible. Now, these are the names of the sons of Israel who came to Egypt with Jacob. They came, each one with his household: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, and Benjamin, Dan and Naphtali, Gad and Asher. All the people who descended from Jacob were 70 people. But Joseph was already in Egypt, and Joseph died, and all his brothers and all that generation. But the sons of Israel were fruitful and increased greatly and multiplied and became exceedingly mighty, so that the land was filled with them. Now a new king arose over Egypt who did not know Joseph, and he said to his people, Behold, the people of the sons of Israel are too many and too mighty for us. Come, let us deal shrewdly with them. Otherwise, they will multiply, and in the event of war, they will also join those who hate us and fight against us and depart from the land. So they appointed taskmasters over them to oppress them with hard labor, and they built for Pharaoh storage cities, Pithom and Ramesses. But the more they oppressed them, the more they multiplied and the more they spread out, so that they dreaded the sons of Israel. The Egyptians used violence to compel the sons of Israel to labor, and they made their lives bitter with hard labor in mortar and bricks, and at all kinds of labor in the field, all their labors which they violently had them perform as slaves. Then the king of Egypt spoke to the Hebrew midwives, one of whom was named Shiphrah, and the other was named Puah. And he said, When you are helping the Hebrew women to give birth, and see them upon the birth stool, if it is a son, then you shall put him to death. But if it is a daughter, then she shall live. But the midwives feared God and did not do as the king of Egypt had commanded them, but let the boys live. So the king of Egypt called for the midwives and said to them, Why have you done this thing and let the boys live? The midwives said to Pharaoh, Because the Hebrew women are not like the Egyptian women, for they are vigorous and give birth before the midwife can get to them. So God was good to the midwives, and the people multiplied and became very mighty. And because the midwives feared God, he established households for them. Then Pharaoh commanded all his people, saying, Every son who is born you are to throw into the Nile, but every daughter you are to keep alive. Exodus chapter 2. Now a man from the house of Levi went and married a daughter of Levi, and the woman conceived and gave birth to a son. And when she saw that he was beautiful, she hid him for 3 months. But when she could no longer hide him, she got him a papyrus basket and covered it with tar and pitch. Then she put the child in it and set it among the reeds by the bank of the Nile. and his sister stood at a distance to find out what would happen to him. Now the daughter of Pharaoh came down to bathe at the Nile with her female attendants, walking alongside the Nile, and she saw the basket among the reeds, and sent her slave woman, and she brought it to her. When she opened it, she saw the child, and behold, the boy was crying. And she had pity on him and said, "This is one of the Hebrews' children." Then his sister said to Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go and call a woman for you who is nursing from the Hebrew women, so that she may nurse the child for you?" Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Go ahead." So the girl went and called the child's mother. Then Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Take this child away and nurse him for me, and I will give you your wages." So the woman took the child and nursed him. And the child grew, and she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. And she named him Moses and said, "Because I drew him out of the water." Now it came about in those days when Moses had grown up that he went out to his fellow Hebrews and looked at their hard labors. And he saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, one of his fellow Hebrews. So he looked this way and that, and when he saw that there was no one around, he struck and killed the Egyptian and hid his body in the sand. Now he went out the next day, and behold, two Hebrews were fighting with each other. And he said to the offender, "Why are you striking your companion?" But he said, "Who made you a ruler and a judge over us? Do you intend to kill me as you killed the Egyptian?" Then Moses was afraid and said, "Surely the matter has become known." When the Pharaoh heard about this matter, he tried to kill Moses. But Moses fled from the presence of Pharaoh and settled in the land of Midian, and he sat down by a well. Now the priests of Midian had 7 daughters, and they came to draw water and fill the troughs to water their father's flock. Then the shepherds came and drove them away, but Moses stood up and helped them and watered their flock. When they came to their father Reuel, he said, "Why have you come back soon today?" They said, "An Egyptian saved us from the shepherds, and what is more, he even drew water for us and watered the flock." So he said to his daughters, "Where is he then? Why is it that you have left the man behind? Invite him to have something to eat." And Moses was willing to live with the man. And he gave his daughter Zipporah to Moses. Then she gave birth to a son, and he named him Gershom, for he said, "I have been a stranger in a foreign land." Now it came about in the course of those many days that the king of Egypt died, and the sons of Israel groaned because of the bondage, and they cried out, and their cry for help because of their bondage ascended to God. So God heard their groaning, and God remembered his covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And God saw the sons of Israel, and God took notice of them. Exodus chapter 3. Now Moses was pasturing the flock of his father-in-law Jethro, the priest of Midian, and he led the flock to the west side of the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. Then the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a burning fire from the midst of a bush, and he looked, and behold, the bush was burning with fire, yet the bush was not being consumed. So Moses said, "I must turn aside and see this marvelous sight, why the bush is not burning up." When the Lord saw it, he turned aside to look. God called to him from the midst of the bush and said, "Moses, Moses." And he said, "Here I am." Then he said, "Do not come near here. Remove your sandals from your feet, for the place on which you are standing is holy ground." And he said, "I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob." Then Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look at God. And the Lord said, "I have certainly seen the oppression of my people who are in Egypt, and I've heard their outcry because of their taskmasters, for I am aware of their sufferings. So I have come down to rescue them from the power of the Egyptians and to bring them up from that land to a good and spacious land, to a land flowing with milk and honey, to the place of the Canaanite, the Hittite, the Amorite, the Perizzite, the Hivite, and the Jebusite. And now, behold, the cry of the sons of Israel has come to me. Furthermore, I have seen the oppression with which the Egyptians are oppressing them. And now, come, and I will send you to Pharaoh, so that you may bring my people, the sons of Israel, out of Egypt. But Moses said to God, Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh, and that I should bring the sons of Israel out of Egypt? And he said, Assuredly I will be with you, and this shall be the sign to you that it is I who have sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you shall worship God at this mountain. Then Moses said to God, Behold, I am going to the sons of Israel, and I will say to them, The God of your fathers has sent me to you. Now they may say to me, What is his name? What shall I say to them? And God said to Moses, I am who I am. And he said, This is what you shall say to the sons of Israel. I am has sent me to you. God furthermore said to Moses, This is what you shall say to the sons of Israel. The Lord, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, has sent me to you. This is my name forever, and this is the name for all generations to use to call upon me. Go and gather the elders of Israel and say to them, The Lord, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, has appeared to me, saying, I am indeed concerned about you and what has been done to you in Egypt. So I said, I'll bring you up out of the oppression of Egypt to the land of the Canaanite, the Hittite, the Amorite, the Perizzite, the Hivite, and the Jebusite, to a land flowing with milk and honey. Then they will pay attention to what you say, and you with the elders of Israel will come to the king of Egypt, and you will say to him, The Lord, the God of the Hebrews, has met with us. So now, please, let us go a 3 days' journey into the wilderness, so that we may sacrifice to the Lord our God. But I know that the king of Egypt will not permit you to go except under compulsion. So I will reach out with my hand and strike Egypt with all my miracles, which I shall do in the midst of it. And after that he will let you go. I will grant this people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, and it shall be that when you go, you will not go empty-handed, but every woman shall ask her neighbor and the woman who lives in her house for articles of silver and articles of gold and clothing, and you will put them on your sons and daughters, so you will plunder the Egyptians. Exodus chapter 4. Then Moses said, What if they will not believe me or listen to what I say? For they may say, The Lord has not appeared to you. The Lord said to him, What is that in your hand? And he said, A staff. Then he said, Throw it on the ground. So he threw it on the ground, and it turned into a serpent, and Moses fled from it. But the Lord said to Moses, Reach out with your hand and grasp it by its tail. So he reached out with his hand and caught it, and it turned into a staff in his hand, so that they may believe that the Lord, the God of their fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, has appeared to you. The Lord furthermore said to him, Now put your hand inside the fold of your robe. So he put his hand inside the fold, and when he took it out, behold, his hand was leprous like snow. Then he said, Put your hand inside the fold of your robe again. So he put his hand into the fold again, and when he took it out of the fold, behold, it was restored like the rest of his flesh. So if they will not believe you, nor pay attention to the evidence of the first sign, they may believe the evidence of the last sign. But if they will not believe even these two signs, nor pay attention to what you say, then you shall take some water from the Nile and pour it on the dry ground, and the water which you take from a Nile will turn into blood on the dry ground. Then Moses said to the Lord, Please, Lord, I have never been eloquent, neither recently, nor in the time past, nor since you have spoken to your servant, for I am slow of speech and slow of tongue. But the Lord said to him, Who has made the human mouth? Or who makes anyone unable to speak or deaf, or able to see or blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now then, go, and I myself will be with your mouth, and instruct you in what you are to say. But he said, Please, Lord, now send the message by whomever you will. Then the anger of the Lord burned against Moses, and he said, Is there not your brother Aaron the Levite? I know that he speaks fluently, and moreover, behold, he is coming out to meet you. When he sees you, he will be overjoyed. So you are to speak to him and put the words in his mouth, and I myself will be with your mouth and his mouth, and I will instruct you in what you are to do. He shall speak for you to the people, and he will be as a mouth for you, and you will be as God to him. And you shall take in your hand the staff with which you shall perform these signs. Then Moses departed and returned to his father-in-law Jethro and said to him, Please, let me go, that I may return to my brothers who are in Egypt and see if they are still alive. And Jethro said to Moses, Go in peace. Now the Lord said to Moses in Midian, Go back to Egypt, for all the men who were seeking your life are dead. So Moses took his wife and his sons and mounted them on a donkey and returned to the land of Egypt. Moses also took the staff of God in his hand. And the Lord said to Moses, When you go back to Egypt, see that you perform before Pharaoh all the wonders which I have put in your power. But I'll harden his heart so that he will not let the people go. Then you shall say to Pharaoh, This is what the Lord says. Israel is my son, my firstborn. So I said to you, Let my son go, so that he may serve me. But you have refused to let him go. Behold, I am going to kill your son, your firstborn. But it came about at overnight encampment on the way that the Lord met Moses and sought to put him to death. So Zipporah took a flint and cut off her son's foreskin and threw it at Moses' feet. And she said, You are indeed a groom of blood to me. So he left him alone. At that time she said, You are a groom of blood, because of his circumcision. Now the Lord said to Aaron, Go to meet Moses in the wilderness. So he went and met him at the mountain of God and kissed him. Moses told Aaron all the words of the Lord with which he had sent him, and all the signs that he had commanded him to do. Then Moses and Aaron went and assembled all the elders of the sons of Israel, and Aaron spoke all the words which the Lord had spoken to Moses. He then performed the signs in the sight of the people. So the people believed, and when they heard that the Lord was concerned about the sons of Israel, and that he had seen their affliction, they bowed low and worshipped. Okay, that is our reading for today. Now, in the book of Exodus, we are introduced to this remarkable story of Moses, a man chosen by God to lead the Israelites out of slavery in Egypt. Now, this narrative is more than just a historical account. It's a powerful testimony of trust, obedience, and the unwavering faithfulness of our God. The story begins with the Israelites. They're facing oppression and slavery under the rule of Pharaoh. However, in the midst of their suffering, we witness the birth of Moses. And his mother, Jochebed, trusted God's plan for her son, even in the face of adversity. She demonstrated extraordinary faith by placing Moses in a basket and sending him down the Nile and trusting that God would protect him. Like Jochebed, we are called to trust God in difficult circumstances, knowing that his plans are greater than our understanding. In the face of adversity, trust in his providence and believe that he can turn even the most challenging situations for our good. In Exodus chapter 3, we see Moses, now grown, he encounters God at the burning bush. And despite his initial reluctance and feelings of inadequacy, Moses listens to God, God's call to lead his people out of Egypt. And God reassures Moses that he will be with him every step of the way. And here we see that God's call often requires stepping out of our comfort zones and overcoming our doubts. Obedience to his call may not always be easy, but is rewarded by God's faithfulness. Trusting and obeying God's direction leads to the fulfillment of his purposes in our lives. And in Exodus chapter 4, Moses expresses concerns about the people not believing him and his ability to speak. But God provides signs to reassure Moses and empower him for the task ahead. The Lord's provision is not only in miracles, but also in the assurance of his presence. Now, when God calls us, he equips us. Trust in his providence and have confidence in his ability to overcome any inadequacies we may perceive in ourselves. God's power is made perfect in our weakness, and our trust in him unlocks his divine provision. Now, the story of Moses in Exodus chapter 1 to 4 is a testament to the transformative power of trust and obedience in God. It challenges us to reflect on our own lives and consider where God is calling us to trust Him more and obey His leading. In every step, remember that God is faithful, His plans are perfect, and His provision is more than sufficient. So let us draw inspiration from Moses' journey, trusting the God who leads us with love, wisdom, and unwavering faithfulness. And that is our reading for today. I thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you walked away with some lessons from today's reading. And if you took away something else from today's reading, why not just comment below so we can all just learn from each other? And again, if you haven't subscribed, I encourage you just to hit that notification bell so you get notified of any new videos that we do publish. Thanks so much again for joining us, and we'll see you tomorrow for the next day in our Bible in a Year reading plan.